Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I have a bit of a themed video for you. I am going to be making a Halloween slash Beetlejuice Tombstone DIY. I saw the Beetlejuice movie yesterday and had a bit of a get together beforehand, so I wanted to create some Beetlejuice decorations and props just to get people into the spirit before we went to the movie. So I did make a few things. I will show you everything at the end of the video that I did, but in this video I'm going to show you how I made the actual tombstone. I did watch some videos on YouTube beforehand to help me understand how to create them, and they were super helpful, so I will link those in the description so you can watch those too. This is definitely a more simplified version of the Beetlejuice tombstone because the Beetlejuice tombstone has those skeletons on the top, and I didn't have the time to create those because they were definitely a little bit more time consuming. But yeah, if you want to see how it turned out and how I made it, just keep watching. So to get started, I am cutting out the shape of my tombstone from a pink insulation foam board. These are slightly different than the white ones. I think they're a lot denser, so they're better for carving. They are on the expensive side. Luckily, we needed some for our attic, so I had some left over. I just used a regular utility knife to cut through. This is 2 inches thick, so I would cut on both sides as far as I could and then cut wherever I needed to, and it was pretty easy to cut down into the shape I wanted. And then I took a round object to create kind of the head or the top of this tombstone, and then made that shape using just like my eyeballs and pencil and just did what felt right. This part was a little tricky. It's hard to get the shape exactly right, and since I used my eyeballs and not any measurements, the right side was a bit higher than the left side, so I did have to do a little bit of trimming. And it's kind of like if you're someone who wears eyeliner and you do winged eyeliner, you do one side and then you realize like it's thicker than the other side, so then you do the other side and now that one's thicker. It was the same kind of situation with this. I would trim a bit on one side and then realize I have to trim a bit on the other side, but I eventually got it somewhere that I liked it and it made sense. In some of the tutorials I watched, they actually sanded down the sides as well. And I did try and do that, but my sides were quite jagged, so the sanding didn't help that much, so I kind of just gave up on that. And to be honest, like, I don't really care. I think it looked good no matter what, so I'm not sure that really sanding it smooth actually matters. You could probably skip that step. So the next thing I wanted to do was put down a stencil for my image. I didn't want to freehand because I wanted to be as close to the Beetlejuice text and logo as possible. Since I'm not doing the skeletons, I used this image, which I think is called a Memento Mori, and this is actually in the Beetlejuice logo. I think I forgot how to stencil because I realized I need to use a clear transfer tape and I didn't have any, so I grabbed clear sticker tape, which clearly didn't work because it was so sticky, it just ripped everything off. So I went back to Michael's and got the proper stencil sticker paper and then the proper transfer paper, and everything worked out as expected. So this is how it turned out. I basically drew using my iPad over the Beetlejuice logo to get something very close. And I grabbed that skull image online. And then once I had the design all put together, I uploaded it to Cricut and cut it out. So next I wanted to spray paint the design, so I had a guide when I was carving it out. Apparently spray paint can eat away at the foam, and some people use that to their advantage, but I didn't want that to happen. So I think if you do a very light coat and do it further away, you won't eat away at the foam. It could also be the kind of spray paint you're using, but I successfully was able to get this on without creating any kind of effect in that way. You can see what it looks like closer up in the next clip. The guide is really important. You could carve this guide out by hand with a X-Acto knife, but if you want something really precise and also to work really quickly, you can use your Dremel with a piece added on to use as a guide so you don't go in inconsistent depths. I'll show you that in a second. I will also link where I got that piece. I already had a Dremel, so I just had to buy this piece from Amazon. It was like $20, and I already had a bit that worked for this as well. I'll show you screenshots from the video I watched so you have a close-up of what the bit should look like that is attached to the Dremel. When you're using the Dremel, you want to make sure you're using a respirator because it creates a lot of dust and you don't want to inhale this insulation because it can be dangerous. So now we're going to get started with that part. Again, this was my favorite part. It's so fun and it feels really artistic. So you can see that guide allows you to keep a consistent depth when you're engraving on the foam, and then you just want to stay obviously within your lines, and there's a hole on both sides of that guide that you can look through, so you just want to make sure you're at the right angle and you can see where you're going. I had this at a low speed because apparently if you have it on a high speed, it will actually just melt everything. So I did have this at a very low speed, and I just took it slowly and started kind of in the middle until I got the hang of it, and then I went on to the letters because the arrow was obviously a lot easier. So this is the real time, how long that took me or how slow I went, and then I'm showing you just how it was sped up. Again, this did take a lot of time and created a ton of dust. So my husband did come out with the shop vac to help just clean up a lot of the dust, just to make it easier and quicker for me so I could see what I was doing, because all of those pieces kind of blocked the view a little bit, and my bit and my Dremel tool were getting covered in this pink dust. So it's a little tricky, but it's a lot of fun. I did have a lot of bees around me too, so that was kind of annoying. Okay, so now I have it all engraved. Again, that took quite a while, probably like an hour. I can't remember, but it probably 45 minutes or something like that. So now I'm going to go in and create some cracks in the stone so that it looks old and worn. I would suggest looking at maybe some photos of real old tombstones to see their crack pattern. That sounds funny. I didn't, and so I think mine probably don't look the most realistic. I kind of just went for it, but I think you should probably use some sort of reference photo because I think that would have made maybe my ideas a little bit better. And then I used this weird like cheese grater tool. I bought it at a hardware store. It was relatively cheap. It was only $7, and they suggested it in the video I watched. And it does actually do a really good job of just kind of roughing up the edges and making it look like it had crumbled away. So I would recommend that tool, but it's not necessary. You could use your X-Acto knife or maybe like a cheap cheese grater. I don't know. I wouldn't use the one I used on my food though. But this is how it all turned out. And then lastly, there was another effect that I saw in the video that ages the stone, kind of giving it like potholes. You just spray some water onto the foam and then grab a blowtorch, or some people use a heat gun, and it creates those like little divots. I think the blowtorch does a better job than the heat gun though, and I happen to have one. So also I'm outside, so I don't need to plug anything in, which was handy. I am painting this after, so you want to make sure you can really see those little divots to make it stand out with the paint. So I used a regular outside paint, and it's the paint that we use to paint our concrete steps. In the videos I watched, a lot of people recommended, I think it's called Dry Lock, but I think that might be an American product. I didn't see that in Canada, but also the new cans of paint that did, I guess, similar things were really expensive. So I just used this latex external paint, and he also said that you could add sand to the paint to like make it look more like concrete. I didn't do that. I just used the straight paint and it still looked good, but you could definitely make it look even more like concrete if you added some sand. I think the color was perfect. I will link this paint in the description. It's from Behr, so I think that's pretty accessible. And then I used that glue all to attach my base to the headstone. I just used the leftover scraps of foam board and cut a shape around and then used some weights while it was drying. And it seemed to work really well. It feels pretty secure. So this is just a look at how it's looking so far. But now I'm going to go in with some washes of paint. Basically, I just mixed some acrylic paint with water, majority water with a little bit of acrylic. I'm starting by darkening all of the engraved parts and all of the cracks that I made. And I'm using water to thin out some areas. Some areas were a little bit darker than others. You can see the drips from underneath the Beetlejuice word. Those ones I wish I had sprayed to soften them up a bit, because at the end you can really see them, and I don't think that's like realistic for tombstones, but whatever. And after this, I went in with different colors. So I had a cup of water filled with the brown paint, a green paint, and a black paint. So I went in with all of those and just kind of used my paintbrush to wipe it across. This is when I realized I got paint on my bench. Anyways, but I also saw people use a spray bottle mixed with paint and then you just sprayed on the tombstone. I didn't have an extra spray bottle, especially one for each color. So I just decided to use my paintbrush and basically wash it on. I did a layer of the black over the whole tombstone. And then I would do the green just in certain areas, and then same with the brown. And then I kind of mixed the brown with the green. So the more layers, the more realistic I think it will look, and the more aged it will look. Just take your time and kind of go with your gut and see what looks best. This is a close-up of what it looked like after I put all those washes of paint over. It's still a bit wet, still drying at this point. These are the paints I used. I just bought them from the dollar store, from Dollarama, and they're nothing special, so you could use whatever you want. And those are the little jugs or cups of water. Because I added those on with water, I feel like if I put this outside and it rained, the paint might get ruined. In the videos I watched, nobody sealed their tombstones. Somebody in the one video said they lived in California, so it wasn't necessary, but that their paints were weatherproof anyways. I'm not sure that mine are weatherproof, but also I live in Canada and it always rains during Halloween. So after I was finished with all my coats of paint, I did go in with the matte Mod Podge. And I didn't get the spray one. I just got the like glue one, and I put that on with a brush over the entire tombstone, and hopefully that'll work. I will be putting this out soon for Halloween, but I think that a little bit of added protection is a good idea. I did go in obviously on all of the Beetlejuice lettering with a red acrylic paint. It's mostly paint, just with like a tiny bit of water, but it is mostly paint. And I did do 2 coats to make sure it was really dark. And I did that just to the letters and to the arrow. So this is what it ended up looking like, and I love it. I can't wait to put it out for Halloween. And I wanted to show you a couple other things I made. I made these sandworms out of clay for my planter, and then I made this beetle themed wreath from stuff at the dollar store. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked the final result. I love the tombstone. I think it's really cool. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I definitely plan on using it for Halloween in our front yard with the rest of the decorations. Actually would like to make a second one because I have quite a bit of that foam insulation board left that I could make another one. So let me know if you have any tips or ideas for my second one, and also let me know if you saw Beetlejuice and what you thought of it. I thought it was hilarious, and I'm probably gonna go see it again. So anyways, I will see you next time with my next video.